This is Brian Wright interviewing Warrant Officer James Mortensen of 149 Squadron at 2:30 on Monday 17th September 2018 at his home in Leyland near Preston. First questions, if you don't mind, James, if you would just confirm your service number for us and your date of birth, please.
2209575.
Never forget that, do you?
You never forget it.
And what was your date of birth?
27th 12th 1924.
Which makes you currently 93.
Correct.
Where were you born and where did you grow up? You mentioned
Liverpool.
Liverpool. Whereabouts in Liverpool, actually? In the
Egbert.
city?
Liverpool 17.
Okay. And Egbert, that's an unusual spelling, isn't it? It's A-U-G...
A-I-G.
A-I-G.
B-U-R-T-H.
Yeah. And along with your mum and dad, did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had 2 sisters and a brother.
And were you in between, or were you
Yeah,
the
I was
elder brother?
third.
Yeah.
I had 2 older sisters and a younger brother.
Okay. And what was home life like in Egbert? Was it
It was
quite a
very
nice
good.
area?
My father was a detective in the police.
What did your mum do?
She just stayed at home.
That was-
Unfortunately, she died in 1937. Very, very young.
So you would have not been so old yourself?
About
then,
13, 14 or so.
13, okay. Whereabouts did you go to school?
St Anne's Church of England School.
Was that was that your first one? Was it a primary school? Or
It's primary school, yes. And it was a school. It was a church school right through, from 5 to 14.
And you stayed there, as you say, until you were 14. I saw a school report that said you had a special aptitude for maths and English. Is that right?
Yeah.
Were they your favourite subjects then?
Yes. Math still is.
Do you think you have a technical background or a logical sort of brain to...
I can always remember phone numbers. When I pick up the phone, I can ring of anybody and I never look at I know the numbers.
And you came top of the class in your last examination.
Yeah.
So was that, I think they called it a high school certificate, is that
Yeah.
right? And so in your year, you were top of that year.
Yeah.
Your
Had my
lessons.
mother been alive,
Hmm.
I'd have gone to university. But Dad decided otherwise. He was a self-made man, he was a detective sergeant, and he reckoned that all his children should be the same.
What would you have liked to study at university had you been able to go? Did you have
I don't
plans?
know, I'd never considered it because I never even got there.
I just wondered if you had plans or particular
No.
focus on things to study.
I was all very keen on maths. Probably would have been something to do with that.
Okay. And when war broke out, you'd have been about 15 years old then, wouldn't you?
I was in the ATC.
And that only started in 1941, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, number 7 Squadron. 7F Squadron, the founder squadron. That was in Liverpool.
Did you join in 1941 or did you...
I can't remember when I joined.
Okay. Okay.
I got up to NCO or some sort. I remember that, but which I don't know.
Did you manage to get any flying?
Oh yes, and also we did gliding. That was great.
So was it...
RAF Sealand we went for that.
Okay. That's in North Wales.
Yeah, North
stroke
Wales.
Cheshire,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Cheshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the flying that attracted you to join the Air Force, or was there some other aspect to
It was
as a
flying.
trade?
Flying.
And did you have intentions to become a pilot? at
I
that
went
stage?
in as a PNB, pilot navigator bomb aimer. And when we went down to Bridgenorth when I was joined up. We went to London first, for the ordinary thing at Lord's Cricket Ground, and then it was moved to Bridgenorth, and that's when they decided then what we were going to do. And I went as PNB, and they said, well, you can go as a PNB, but there's a hell of a waiting list, and you've got to go to America or Canada. And he said, it's a long course. He said, of course you can go to rear gunner right away. I said, no, thank you. And he said, well, we've got a radio school going as a wireless operator. He had a 12-month course. I said, well, I fancy that, so I went on that. If I'd gone on the PNB course to America, I'd have had to wait about 8 months, and then it's about another 8 or 10 months flying. So the war had been well over.
And so what year was it when you joined up then?
43.
In June, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you'd have been 18,
Yeah.
and that was at that time the minimum age for joining, wasn't it? The earliest point at which you could join.
I'm not sure.
Were you? You said you left school at 14.
Yes.
Were you employed between 14
Yes,
and
I
18?
worked in an office first, as an office clerk, doing the postage stamp, etc. And then I went into Roots Aircraft, building Halifaxes.
And what was your trade when you were building Halifaxes?
Well, I got up to like a leading hand in charge of, there were nearly all women then, there were very few men. And I was in charge, I was only about 18, 17, whatever it was. And I was in charge of older women. Because at that time they wouldn't let women be in charge.
And what kind of things were you instructing?
I was doing
them
the
on?
interior of the Halifax. All the, the riveting all round. Yeah. Used to hold the gun inside while somebody outside did the other.
So you had to be quite
Yeah,
exactly in
yeah.
the right position.
Yeah. Well, you went along in a row and you
Yeah.
went from one to other. If you missed it, hard luck.
And did you enjoy the work?
Oh yes, we're very good.
Was sometimes the shifts I understood would have been pretty long and fairly long working hours. Did you ever get a chance for a social life in between at all? Or?
Oh yes, we used to go out, enjoy ourselves, a crowd of us.
And so you joined up in 1943, and you decided to go to be a wireless operator.
Yeah,
And that was simply really because of the shorter waiting list and training
Yeah.
time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How did you find the training for that profession?
that was excellent. It was RAF Madley in Hereford.
And how long were you there?
About 11 months. It was a long course.
Can you describe what sort of things you were doing?
Yes,
Time?
we started off learning the Morse code, and eventually you had to get up to a certain speed. I got up to 32 words per minute sending and 28 receiving, which was not right at the top. And then we learnt all about the TR-1154-55, which is the radio transmitter receiver we used in the Lancs. And we had to strip them, well, they stripped them down and we had to put them back together again eventually when we learned all about the valve. There were valves then, of course.
Did you find
And
it?
condensers. They should take condenser out or put a dud one in or a dud valve. And you had to come in and sort it out.
Presumably this was not just so that you could maintain the radio, let's say in daylight hours in the aircraft, take it out. Potentially you would have had to look at a problem with the set in the aircraft at
Yeah,
night as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Were you training in fairly realistic conditions in the sense, would they turn the lights off to try and recreate night conditions or anything like
No,
that? Just
not that,
okay.
not that I could
A lot of
remember.
practice. Okay. I believe you began your training from then on Wellington's, your sort of aircrew training.
Yeah.
Do you recall where that was?
It's all in my logbook, this. I can't remember
Okay.
them all. We went to Blenheim's as well.
So you learnt on Blenheim's too?
But on the radio school we were in Percival Proctor's
Okay.
and Avro Hanson's. They were the flight things for the radio. We were taught it on the ground first, and then we used to go up 2 or 3 in an aircraft and take over.
And what kind of exercises were you doing in the aircraft?
Only air-to-ground communications. Morse code and everything.
How did you find that compared to doing it on the ground? Any
It was
different?
very good, very interesting.
What were your assessments like on that? Did you said you came pretty well in the top when you were doing the sending and receiving of Morse code. Was that the same in the air? Did you find that?
Yes,
you could
all
use
about
easy?
the same.
I believe you met your pilot who would become your, let's say, your regular crew pilot while you were flying Wellingtons.
Yeah.
Was that Sergeant Heddy?
AD.
Ady.
A-E-D-Y.
And what was he like?
He was fine.
Did you get on pretty
Big
well?
tall chap. Lived in Torquay actually. He was a sergeant then, of course. And then eventually all bomber command pilots were commissioned.
And so he obviously was potentially one of the last remaining NCO pilots, wasn't
Yeah. Well, it must have been because it was March when I got to the squadron, 45, so only a few months after, before the war ended.
And from Wellington's, you went on to Lancaster's, and I believe you started at 1668 Heavy Conversion Unit.
Yeah,
Bottisford.
Bottisford, yeah.
Is that Norfolk?
No, I don't think it is.
Or
It's
South Lincolnshire or something?
South Lincolnshire, I think, Bottisford.
And how did you meet the rest of your crew? Because you'd meet at a conversion unit or thereabouts before going on to the operational squadron.
But when we met the skipper, there were other people, other navigators and bomb aimers there, and we all sort of got together.
Did you? Some crews met in a hangar. Was that your experience?
I can't remember that.
Okay. you just sort of
It's
naturally.
70 years ago.
Right. Do you recall once you got to Methwold is it Methwold?
Yeah.
In Norfolk, and 149 Squadron, East India Squadron. Do you recall the rest of the crew?
Oh, I know the crew very well, yes.
Do you know what their names and roles were?
Yes, and I kept in touch with 3 of them.
And who were they?
I kept in touch with the pilot. We used to send Christmas cards to each other every year, till about 3 years ago, then it stopped. I've heard nothing since. The navigator died of pneumonia many years ago. The rear gunner, I kept in touch with him, and his wife wrote to me saying he died. The navigator died of pneumonia, I think it was, many years ago. So there's only the bomb aimer and the mid-upper gunner that I didn't know anything about, and I still don't.
Do you recall their names at all?
Yeah, Bob Simpson, the bomb aimer, he's from Northumberland. And Barney the gunner, mid-upper gunner, he was from London. Whether they're still alive, I don't know, but they're the only two I don't know about.
Do you recall who the rear gunner was? Sorry?
Alf Fawcett,
Alf Fawcett.
Fawcett. I kept in touch with him, and then it was his wife who rang, phone, sent a letter to me saying he died many years ago.
And when you joined, were the rest of them all NCOs? Were they all sergeant aircrew like you, or were any of them?
All except the flight engineer. He was the older one of the lot. He'd been mustered from ground crew. So he was like the father of us all. He kept an eye on us. We have a father figure amongst the crew.
And who, do you recall his name, who he was?
Oh God. It'll come back to me. I can't think at the moment.
No worries. And you said earlier that you flew with a reduced crew and there was only two gunners.
We only ever had two gunners. A mid-upper and a rear gunner.
Okay.
We never had a front gunner. The bomb aimer used to do that. And if we had a mid-under, I used to do the mid-under.
What were the facilities like on the base at Methwold? Do you recall? Did you all share the same accommodation, or were you in a sergeant's mess? Or
we had a sergeant's mess, but then they had 6 wings, and every wing had a dance. So 6 nights a week we were dancing. And we used to bring in the civvies from Hereford on the bus, which the WAFs hated.
So there was quite a good social life.
Oh, it was a brilliant social life. And at Methwold, they didn't have a cinema in Methwold, and we had one on the camp, so we used to bring the girls in to watch any films and things. It was a very sleepy little village.
Was it quite close by?
Yeah, a couple, 2 or 3 miles or so.
So you could walk in to
Oh yeah, you
town.
wouldn't walk it, but you could get there handy, you know.
Okay. Did you ever socialise off base as well? Did you go into Methwold for drinks or anything like that, or did you just stand there?
Yes, yeah. It was very, very queer actually, because my wife's been dead over 20 years now. But when she was alive, we decided we had a caravan. I used to tow a caravan, and we stayed in Norfolk. So we went to Methwold, and as we drove into Methwold, right opposite at the junction we came to was a cafe. And I said to my wife, that used to be a pub. She said, it's a cafe. I said, anyway, let's go and have a cup of tea. So we went in, had a cup of tea, and I said to the lady, this looks very, very like a pub that we used to drink in. And she said, come with me. And she took me through a little side door, and in the back was the bar we used to drink in.
Did it bring them back a lot of memories?
Oh, yeah.
Did you share many of those memories with your wife at the time?
Oh, yes. It was very good, some of them.
So, just thinking now in terms of your sort of operational duties, can you describe a typical operation, how you prepared for it?
Well, the first thing we did, we used to go down to the wireless operated briefing. They give us the call signs and everything else we needed to know, and emergency comebacks and things. And then we all used to go to the main briefing, and then we found out where we were going.
And how long would the main briefing sort of take?
It would be half an hour to an hour, you know. Straight on the bare limb on explaining everything, you know, and it was quite a long flight.
Berlin was a notoriously difficult target. How did you feel?
That was our last one.
Yeah. How did you feel when it came up on your list to go?
I don't know. 20 years of age, you're not frightened. You should be. But I think half the time you thought, oh, it's an adventure, off we go again.
So once the briefing had finished, what kind of things would happen then? What would you be doing?
You get all your
aircraft?
equipment together, all your radio things and everything you needed, helmets and then out to the aircraft.
And would you be bussed out there?
Oh yeah, well, either bussed or in a open, I've closed in, what do you call, lorry, you know.
Yeah, truck with a canvas
Yeah,
back sort of thing.
yeah.
And did you or any of the crew have any superstitions or particular rituals for getting on board? I mean, some crews did, but it was particular to them. Did you have any?
Nothing to think of. Henry Gundy used to wave to a WAF friend he used to have as we drove down, taxied around the perimeter, you know, come out and wave to him, that was about it.
And so you'd all get on the aircraft then, ready to start the operation.
Yeah.
What kind of checks or preparations would you make at that point?
Well, we'd have to
yourself?
set the transmitter receiver up for the frequencies we were going to use, because every hour we got a group message. Any made agencies, they come in between, but every hour they got a group message. And you had to set up for that and everything. Because if you went in a different aircraft, because you never always flew in the same one, somebody else would have a different call sign, so you'd have to put your own in.
And did it take long at all to get ready? Were you fairly
Yeah.
quick and efficient at doing it?
Yeah, as soon as possible, so as you could sit down.
And as you sort of taxied out, would the pilot be calling the crew for checks or anything like that? Would he
He just made sure we're all in position and everything, and then he took over with the control tower then.
So right at the, I suppose, start of an operation then, how did it feel if you think back to your first operation and you having done all that training in the lead up to it? Do you recall how it felt to go on your first op over Germany?
I think they all felt the same. They went either to the Ruhr or Berlin, but they all felt the same. At 20 years of age, you weren't bothered.
There were no butterflies in the stomach or anything
Well, I
like
suppose
that?
there must have been, but I wasn't really in fear. I always knew I was coming back. Could always made arrangements where I was going the next night. Man, it didn't always work out that way.
And being so close to the end of the war, because this was around March,
Yeah, March
1945,
Yeah.
did you feel at any point prior to that an eagerness to get onto operations before the war ended, or?
Oh yes, we wanted to go. And we did 3 or 4, and then we had a mess up, and we were sent to Feldball on a bombing course.
And was there any reason given for that? Sent on the course?
Well, yes. A difference between the pilot and the navigator of where to bomb.
And do you think that was a misidentified target, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when we came back, because there's a camera on board, of course, and they photographed where we bombed, and we were sent from Methwold to Feltwell, which are a couple of miles away, and we did a fortnight bombing practice.
Were those the only repercussions
Yeah.
from the
All, I told her I knew it, about happened to the pilot and navigator, I've no idea. But they still stayed with us.
So they certainly weren't separated or anything
No.
like that. Were there any particular incidents from other raids that you went on? You flew in total 4 operational sorties, 2 during the day and 2 at night. Were there any particular incidents that stood out from those?
Only one, when we were attacked by a night fighter. And that was fun. Well, it wasn't fun then, but the mid-upper started on him and the ray gunner. And then I had a mid-under, so I had to go there. I don't think we hit him. But it must have been about a month later, they got a DFM sent to the squadron. Only one. I don't know who got it, I have no idea. It was going to be shared between the crew. And somebody got it, I don't know who. Could have been anyone.
And so potentially that might have been over Berlin on your last sortie.
It could well have been.
Were there any other? There were no other incidents. You only mentioned the one.
No. I saw a few Halifaxes and things hit and go down, but we were never hit anything at all. Just that one night fighter came down over. He never hit us. He just went past us and we shot him and he went underneath. And that was it.
And you mentioned your role was dual role as a mid-undergunner as well. Can you describe what that entailed?
Well, it was very, very, very few aircraft had a mid-under turret. Most of the time they didn't. So it was just on flat floor. But if we were on an aircraft that had a mid-under, I used to use it, that's all. It was very sad. I think I only used it once, I think.
And what sort of...
Because most of them didn't have them.
What sort of gun were you firing?
The 303. 4 303s or 2, I can't remember now. It was the 303s I know.
And how were you positioned in the aircraft for it? Clearly you'd be sat in the
yeah.
floor, but were you just... Was there any kind of seating for you to be in, as there was for other guys?
Not really. You sort of bent down sort of thing, you know, on the low seat we had.
Mm-hmm.
But that only happened once, so all the other aircraft didn't have mid-unders.
And were you given any gunnery training?
Oh, I did some gunnery training, yeah. Because I went in as a WAP AG first.
Mm-hmm.
Then halfway through, they changed it to the S-Prevy for signals. So WAP AG finished then and signals took over.
And was yours the only aircraft on the squadron with the mid-undergunner, or were there any others?
We didn't have a mid-undergunner.
Or any...
It was the Bardasov that did it.
Yeah. But were there any other aircraft on the squadron, on your squadron, that had that?
Some of them, I never went through them all, but okay. Some I flew had, I think it was 2 had it, all the rest didn't. Because there were very, very few of them had them.
Interesting.
Because they were old ones. Because they were the early Mark 1 Lancs that had the mid-under.
Okay. And were you, from your position in the aircraft, you are fairly enclosed. Were you able at any stage to see the targets you were flying over?
I had a window alongside me.
Okay. So you had a reasonably good view.
Oh, I had a wonderful view. It was the only window, apart from the pilot, you know, and the bomb aim on the front. This was the only window that was smashing. I could look out and see what was happening.
Do you recall what it was like flying over the targets during the day as opposed to during the night? Was there any significant difference for you?
You're more vulnerable during the day. You could be seen easier, of course. But we never had any problems at all apart from that once. It was just like a trip going out and coming back and dropping your bombs and coming back.
It's all
We were very lucky.
Yeah. Fairly straightforward then, wasn't it?
Yeah. 50% luck.
And I believe you were also involved in, or your flights after the Berlin raid and after the surrender involved POW repatriation. You had one around May.
Yeah, brought Italian prisoners, our prisoners from Italy, brought them back. And also dropped food supplies to the people in Holland. I've got a photograph there of it.
And can you describe those kind of sorties? Yeah, quite.
It was wonderful actually, because we were flying over, we had to fly pretty low to drop them. And there were thousands of people around there, wherever we were dropping them. And we were frightened of hitting them. As a matter of fact, they were so... Because the minute the stuff dropped, they were on them. Because they were short of food.
You say it's very low level. Would you say it's below 250 feet, something like that?
Oh no, I wouldn't think it was
slightly
that
above.
low. Probably about 1,000 feet.
Okay.
But we couldn't be too high because when they dropped, they didn't want to damage anything. It didn't drop from a big height. We'd have missed them.
Do you recall how they delivered the food packages? Was it a case of just opening the bomb bay doors, or did they go out the side, the sort of the crew door or anything like that?
We used to throw them out the doors, mainly, because you couldn't put them in the bomb bay, really.
What sort of size packages are we talking about, do you think?
I can't remember, but they went on a short parachute, down, but the minute they landed, they were on.
So I guess they're kind of boxes that you could lift and...
I think there's a photograph there, isn't there? That one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so these show... This photograph happens to show a Lancaster with its bomb bay doors open. And
there must have been someone down from there.
Yeah. And that, looking at that, the people on the ground obviously seemed pretty happy to see. Was that something does that photograph look pretty familiar to you? Is that
definitely,
the kind of thing you would see?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all waiting. We had to be very careful, we missed them.
Did you fly many of those, or was it just the one?
Not too many, a couple at all.
Okay.
We also took the top brass over the bombing areas after the war. They wanted to see what damage had been done to Berlin and places like that. I forget the name there. A special name for it, but top brass used to come and fly with us so they could see what had happened and went back again.
Did you have to give up your seat for any of them so they could have a look out the window?
No, I had to stay there in case there was a call.
And just thinking about the POW flights, what can you recall of those?
Oh, that was unbelievable. They were really down and out. And we took cigarettes and chocolate with us and gave it them. They were pleased as anything, They're all Brit. We brought back from Italy.
How many do you think you managed to fit in the aircraft?
I can't remember that.
Because it's quite tight.
But they made room for them, But they were very, very, very grateful for being brought back.
And were they all RAF POWs?
No, the Army, Navy, not Navy, Army and RAF mainly.
And did they look like they'd had a rough time at all, or were they?
They didn't look very happy. Well, they did happy when we got there.
You flew both Wellingtons and Lancasters. Did you have a preference having flown either? Was there any particular characteristics?
The Lang definitely. Well, much better. Also flown the Mosquito.
Have you? What was that like?
Well, it was queer how it happened. I was a warrant officer then, I believe, or a flight sergeant, one of them. And I was in the office, and this bloke came, we had a pilot. He came in, he said, "Are you busy?" I said, "Not too busy, why?" He said, I'm going up for a flight. He said, I need someone with me. I said, okay, fair enough. I told the CEO where I was going. I went out with a Mosquito. It was terrific.
Do you recall where you went?
No, we just flying around generally. Oh, terrific aircraft.
wasn't at low level, was it? It was at...
I mean, bits and pieces, you know.
Really?
Oh no, the only at low level was in the air display down in London. That was murder. We all went down for Battle of Britain Day, and the Lancs were going to do a low level fly past, and this pilot was squadron, he'd forgotten his surname now, but he said, I was going with him, only two of us. He said I had to act as flight engineer as well. I said okay, so we got there, it was pouring rain, so they all went to the pub. Then the sun came out, and they decided to go ahead with the operation. Did a 4-engine flyover, then a 3-engine, then a 2-engine. He said, do you fancy a single? I said, you can go to hell. And then on the way back, he said, I'm knackered. He said, you can fly it back. So I flew it back. Oh, just straight and level, obviously, and keep the height and so on. Then woke him up when we got near the drone.
You'd no issues flying it or taking control or anything?
Hmm?
You had no issues taking control or anything? It was fairly easy to...
Well, we used to take turns apiece. The crew, pilot used to come out and, not on ops, obviously, but all on cross-country flying, he'd say, oh, come and have a go, I'm having a rest. And we'd all take turns.
How did it feel to fly?
It was fine.
That's quite something to be just given a go on a Lancaster.
Mind you, don't forget there's a flight engineer sitting alongside you, and he's a pilot as well.
True. Were there any other incidents or sorties that were particularly memorable for you?
No, I don't think so. Only the low level one we did over East Anglia. About 5 of us in formation. Oh God, cows and sheep running.
So there were 5.
We had to get permission to do that, of course.
So there were 5 Lancasters in
Formation.
fairly close formation.
No, not too close.
So fairly loose formation, and presumably shaped like an arrowhead, one lead and 2 either side.
From what I can remember.
Yeah.
That was great.
What sort of height were you for that?
I can't remember that, but it was quite low.
And you were over East Anglia.
Yeah.
At that point, did you go
Cambridge, over the sea as well. Yeah.
Excellent. And who was your CO? You mentioned him before when you went down to the display. Who was your CO on the
group captain? I can't remember his name now, but he was a smashing bloke. I mean, we went out on day trips and things. Instead of him coming in a car, he'd come in the truck with us. And he was a real down-to-earth bloke, very nice.
There was a wing commander, Chilton, in charge of the squadron at the time. I don't suppose his name rings any bells, does it? No. Okay. So after the war ended and you've had these additional sort of sorties, what sort of things happened to you after that?
Well, I was asked to sign on and stay on. And I'd had 3 months of church parades, drills, no flying. And I got bored to tears. I said, oh God, this isn't for me, so I came out. But I was offered a commission if I stayed on, but I didn't. Perhaps it was a mistake, I don't know. And I got a lovely pension by now.
So at that stage you were a warrant officer and sort of potentially you'd been asked to consider going up to officer, but declined it. And so this would be, your service in the RAF ended in
47.
February 1947.
This would be the end of 46.
And you asked...
I wasn't the only one. I think you asked quite a few to stay on, but I was one of them. And after having, as I say, a few months of no flying, because we hardly ever went up after the war finished, apart from these special ones. And there was that, and loads of church parade every Sunday, and parades during the week. And I thought I couldn't stick for more than this. But afterwards I thought maybe I should have done.
And were you still based at Methwold during that time?
No, I was up at King's Lynn. Marham. RAF Marham.
And so eventually in 47 you asked to be demobbed. And what happened to you then? What course did your life take after that?
Well, I was sent to Burton Wood. That's where we got demobbed. And I got my suit. And then I went home.
So Burton Wood's not too far from Liverpool, really.
No.
It's near Warrington.
Yes, Warrington. That's where we got demobbed at Burton Wood.
And did you go back to the family home in Egbert?
No, my father had remarried then, and they moved to Hunts Cross, which is a superior area of Liverpool. So they say.
And was he still in the police force at that time?
Yeah.
So presumably he'd been promoted from...
He's worked his way up to Detective Sergeant, yeah. And then he remarried, of course. And we won't go into further details, but I left home.
And when...
He was all right.
Okay. So...
I went into digs then.
And were you still in the Liverpool area?
Oh, yes.
On your own?
Yeah.
And what did you do for employment after that, after coming out of the RAF?
My uncle was in the aircraft industry, and I went into Roots. And they were making Lancasters, Halifaxes then. No, start again. I can't remember here now. Oh, what the heck did I do then? I went to the British School of Motoring as a driving instructor.
And how long were you there?
About 14 months, because someone said to us there was a firm opening up at Speak where they made Ford cars, and they wanted delivery drivers. So I had a pupil. I said, "You go for a nice long ride today, we're going out to Speak." And we went out to Speak. I went to see the manager. He signed me up right away. Well, being an instructor. And a couple of weeks later, I was delivering new cars from Ford all over the country. Single cars. Then eventually I drove the car transporters.
And how long did that last?
Oh God, 20 odd years. I was there a long time. I retired from there actually.
And
I've been retired since 1997.
And what sort of things have occupied your time since? I mean, obviously you'd spent time with your wife, as you say, before she died 2 years ago, fortunately.
We had a series of caravans in the Lake District, because we love the Lake District. We still do. And we had a caravan near Keswick. So we used to spend nearly every weekend up at Keswick. We used to go long walks, and it was great.
Very nice part of the world.
Oh, I love Keswick.
And just thinking about the sort of commemoration and recognition given to Bomber Command and the veterans since, have you been to the Bomber Command Centre in Lincoln at the right? Okay. But you've been to East Kirby and to Coningsby and so on, and
I went to Madley once, that's all. I've been to Lincoln.
And did you go to the unveiling of the memorial at Green Park?
No, I went to the cathedral, because they got all the information in the cathedral there.
And what are your thoughts about the recognition that's being given to bomber crew?
I think it's about time. I mean, we did lose 50%.
Yeah, the 125,000 crew, that's
yeah, it's a lot of crew.
55,000 plus.
Yeah.
Were there any additional or other memorable incidents that you can recall from your service at all?
No, not really.
Do you think we've covered everything?
Apart from one when I could have died. That was our own fault. We went at a night do in Hereford, a dance. And the last bus was 11 something. And it was about 20 to 12, and the SPs came up to me and said, "Warrant," he said, "I'm going to give you a chance." He said, "There's 20 minutes to go till midnight. If you're still here at midnight, we're booking you." Yeah, we stayed, didn't we? We got booked. But anyway, we came out, there were no buses. I was about 8 miles back to the camp, about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we're all walking along. Horrible snowing, and it was a horrible night. And lucky, one of the transports came along with the food things, and we got a lift back in that. God knows how we'd have got back otherwise. Of course, we got 7 days for that, didn't we?
So the only time you spent in
CB, yeah.
And when you married, what happened to you? You had obviously a son, Dave, and
got another son in America, Andrew, and a daughter in the Whittle. My son's coming over from America in November.
So you've had a pretty good post-war life, really, haven't
I
you?
have a very enjoyable life.
Yeah. You enjoyed your RAF service, and you've enjoyed your time
Yeah.
since. Good. Well, that's all the questions I have for you, James. So
Good.
thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the information you've given to the IBCC.
Yeah. If you want to know, there's photographs there, maybe, if you want them.
Great. Thank you very much.